So I am here today with Andrea Mani Munoz. She is a product of the Long Island high school system. She's off to college now, and she's also the child of undocumented immigrants. And I feel like maybe she might be one of the people who we should hear from about what's going on today. So, Andrea, uh, I want to start at the beginning. Tell me about your parents coming to this country.
Okay, thank you for having me here first. So my dad came here twice. The first time was around 19, I want to say 1992. He came here. He got caught both times by ICE. The first time, he explained it to me. So when he was coming, a lot of people think when you cross the border, oh, they just like go in. They always assume there was never a border, but there was always been a border. It's just that there are ways people go through. So my dad specifically, he went through where Arizona was. So it's near Nopales, which is like a huge city in Mexico near the frontier. So when my dad first came here, he said he first went under a lot of the time they have to run they people like make they bring like tools and cut open the border because it's a wired fence, so they a lot of the times there was already a hole there. And what he said is basically the first time he had you only get the coyotes, which are the people who are smuggling the people in. The first time they go in, they tell you, okay, you only have around 10 to 15 seconds to really just sprint your heart out and get as fast as you can around from the frontier all the way to the car that is bringing you to like a city to bring you food, water, and everything. And if you don't get there within 10 seconds, they're just gonna leave you behind, which is like I think is really important to emphasize. Like it's not an easy process because the moment those 10 seconds are up, you will be abandoned. You will have to go and find a way to go through and find a city or some shelter. So my dad said when he first got through, he got in, but the ICE people, they're very tactical with methods to catch people. They purposely go into huge cities to capture I guess, the illegals. So my dad, he got caught the first time, but they give you two methods. You go to trial and defend your case, or they tell you you make the decision to go back and then you don't come back. A lot of the time those immigrants take that because then they can be like, yeah, I won't come back, I promise you, but they will come back because they want to bring a better family for their future families and everything. So yeah, my dad came here. That was the first time he went to New York through car. He said it was about a week in the car. And then he came here to Huntington. And it's funny because that's where he met my mom's brother. So then the second time he went back to Mexico because his brother, my uncle, was getting married and he wanted to be there with the family. And originally he was only going to be here for around 2 to 3 years. But then what happened is that after he went to Mexico, he's like, no, I have a better life in the United States and I know I can make a better living there. So the second time he went through a similar process, but this time he was bringing back my cousins from my uncle who's already here and his wife. So at the time DACA wasn't there, so my cousins, it was three of them. Two of them, one, the oldest is like right now 21, I want to say 28, and then my other two cousins, they're around 24 and 23. So they're all under DACA because of this, because they were brought here when they were around like 5 to 7 years old. And the second time was around, I want to say 2001, where he decided to bring with them. And that time they did get caught. All him, my aunt, and my three cousins, they all got caught again. But this time they realized since they were little kids coming in, they were like, you guys have to go back, take that same thing, go back. And then they decided to just come in, continue coming in. And that time they actually went to an airport and traveled to New York because they had the their passports from Mexico, so they validated it as like to coming to New York. So that's how my dad came in here. So for him, it's harder for me to like with the new presidency, it definitely hurts my with my dad more because he's still not like documented or anything. Then my mom, she came here in 2002 and she came with my aunt who was pregnant. I want to say like 5 months pregnant. And her story was pretty much the similar. She also went through the Arizona Mex Nopales border, but she said that during that time, I guess they upped in more the restrictions. So they actually had to go through a river and kind of swim and run at the same time through the border. And my mom said that my aunt, since she was so pregnant, they kind of put a priority on her and my mom first because she was coming in with my aunt who was pregnant. And thank gosh, like she didn't get caught or anything, but like it was definitely scary because she said that when she was running with to get to the car on the other side, my aunt definitely she tripped on a rock and she was like, "No, come on, you gotta get up, you gotta get up, we gotta go, we can't miss this." And they were just like full on sprinting at that point. And so yeah, she came here. She was brought here because my uncle, who my dad met years prior, he paid for her like whole like the whole coyote to pay for her to bring her in, and she just had to repay him back. So yeah.
Okay. So other than uh just forgive me for this.
Mhm,
Just I want to maybe dispel a few right-wing talking points here.
mhm.
Other than coming into the country uh without documents, has anyone in this story committed a crime?
No, no, none of them.
So uh they wound up coming here and I'm assuming working.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of right-wing people think coming here is like a criminal offense, but it's a civil offense since there's no really harm to the American people being done. It's just their own harm coming here through the process. Like it's really hard, which is like hard to break the stereotype. It's like, oh, they're just coming here smuggling drugs and everything, which is like a huge like thing to debunk because it's not true.
What do your parents do for a living?
So right now, my mom works two jobs. One of them is house cleaning, but she used to clean immigration office, but because of COVID and she fractured her foot when I think she was trying to take her laundry bags to laundromat. She cleans houses and then but her full-time job is working at Chipotle. And then my dad's been a landscaper like the whole time he's been here.
Um, I I somewhat imagine that there are Americans who might want a job at Chipotle, but typically speaking, landscaping and house cleaning, are those industries where a lot of other immigrants are found?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the time it's food services, so like McDonald's, Wendy's. Um, landscaping is a huge one, especially because in Huntington, there's like if you go to the pharmacy, local pharmacy, you just see men all lined out in front of the pharmacy waiting for like big like landscaping jobs, cars to come in, be like, oh, we need like three people to help us today with work, and all of them would like come flooding to them and be like, no, choose me. And ironically, that's how my dad got the landscaping job. He was there the first time and the second time, and the boss who hired him, he was like, "Yeah, you're coming with me." And like he's like how my dad was like very like because my dad says like he hates the job, but he likes the fact of like just being connected with the nature area of that part. And then my mom, a lot of the time, the females would do the house cleaning and food services, and a lot of the time, the men would do like construction or like landscaping of some sort.
So, what are you feeling right now? Um, I guess maybe I'll give the example of turning on the news.
I mean, it's definitely hard, especially considering my mom, my junior year, where it's like junior year of high school, it's like, oh, you have to get the best grades, be the most involved in everything. But that year was probably the worst for me mentally and physically because my mom, her case, she started her immigration case when I was like in around, I want to say when I was in fifth grade. And then it got behind because of COVID, and then it got behind again because of Trump's immigration policies. And she started it because my uncle got deported from here when I was around that time, like a year after she started it. So whenever I turn on the news, it's definitely like heartbreaking to hear because my mom, during my junior year, it was either she gets fully deported back to Mexico and gets a 10-year sentence where she's not allowed to come back, or she wins her case and she stays here with us. And I mean, just like she won her case, so I'm really grateful. But in technicality terms, she's still seen as illegal because she does not have like the physical green card with her. So at any point she could still get deported, even though she still has her work authorization card and everything that she just renewed this week. So I mean, it's definitely hard to hear about the immigration stories, like especially because my closest friend, she's under DACA also. And like knowing Trump tried to remove DACA the first time and knowing this time the Senate, the Congress as a whole is like mostly red, supporting him, knowing that he could remove DACA that affects not only my family but my friends, it definitely hurts. And knowing that my dad, like every day, like I kind of pray that my dad doesn't get caught doing work because the man like he wakes up early. He wakes up at like 5:30, 4:30ish, depending on how busy the day is, and he doesn't even make himself lunch or breakfast. So it's like he just wakes up, gets changed, gets ready, and then out the door, and he doesn't come back until like 6 or 7 p.m. So it's like whenever I whenever like I've gotten so used to the time frame when he comes home, whenever he doesn't come within that time frame, it definitely makes me very nervous and shaky. And especially knowing that like anything is possible under this new administration, it's definitely like heartbreaking to like even have to consider like either my mom or dad can get caught at any moment. So
It's yeah, it doesn't seem fair to me that people have to live this way, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people might understand that, while they're going about their life in a totally carefree way, they might have a classmate or, someone who they know facing down quite a bit of dread just existing.
mhm.
Um, do most people in your life know your situation?
um for the most part, yeah, around, but I kind of keep it very general, like very like close within people. Like a lot of people know my mom just got her case and everything, but not a lot of people know like what were the circumstances, how the evidence has to work. Like only my best friend, my other friend who's also under DACA, and I want to give like a little like call to like high school U.S. history, AP U.S. history teacher. He was one of the first teachers who I opened up because he definitely saw the dramatic decline from my high like 99s in US history to like a dramatic 70. Like it just dropped drastically. And he's like, hey, is there anything wrong? I mean, because at that point I was really comfortable with him. And I'm like, well, no, my mom's like, it's a huge case and I can't bring myself to do any work this month. Like it's just like there's this dooming inside of me. Like I feel like I was gonna die. And he's like, well, if your mom needs anything, I could he even offered to go to court with her and be like, I can represent that on testimony of how their daughter and how her reflection of her daughter's like ethics have helped me a lot. So like there's in general there's a lot of people who know like briefly, but there's only a very few people who know like how deeply it affected me like mentally, physically, and emotionally wise, and how it just affected me like going especially through junior year where it's like the most important year of your high school career. So
Are you at all afraid of speaking publicly on this?
I mean, Afraid, not real. I wouldn't say not necessarily afraid. I'm just anxiously, like I know some people can report certain things, but it's not. I'm more proud of being able to and proud and confident to being able to say, no, you're wrong. You don't know the process because you've never gone through it. And I'm proud and confident to say, I know it physically firsthand because my family, I've had my own uncle being deported. My own aunt went back to Mexico before Trump's presidency because she was scared. And it's like I kind of get it kind of gives me this urge of being like, no, you don't get to talk about it because you don't know it yet. I get to talk about it because I've gone through it my whole life at a young age where I can kind of say my childhood was kind of ripped away from me, you know, like the moment like my uncle got deported and like the moment my aunt went back, like I could confidently say to someone like, yeah, it's hard for me, but like I've gotten used to it being like, no, this is for me, it's like a moment of advocacy to be like, I can tell you how you could help people or how you can support these children who are going to be facing certain circumstances.
Well, that's a really nice segue. How can you help people? How can you support children in this circumstance? Because, you know, I can't, I know there's just so much demonization right now, but it just seems hard to me to believe that the majority of people would be opposed to, protecting kids in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So I was just recently talking about this to my US history teacher, because he teaches an African Latino politics class and immigration's a huge topic in that. And I was telling him, well, some resources you can provide. I know a lot of immigration firms are offering free counseling or like free counseling, like helping these immigrants know like there's free counseling services and a lot of them do it pro some some immigration services do it pro bono, which means like for free. And my mom, her case was a pro bono because the office people knew her personally from her cleaning their offices every like 3 times a week and just knowing her as a person. For the kids themselves, I mean, reflecting back to how I would have wanted to be supported, I wish a lot of my classmates wouldn't have started saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't be afraid because if your parents are fine, why should you be afraid?" I feel like just reminding kids, like at the end of the day, they're just kids. They shouldn't be forced into certain ideologies to believe just because certain people aren't born here, they're automatically not human. So just reminding kids to be kids, to remind them like this is their childhood right now, and that if they feel scared for some reason, there are always resources for them, like counselors, certain teachers that are like very nice, like just reminding the kids like if you ever need someone to talk about or just rant or just tell them how you feel about the situation, just tell them, remind them, hey, I'm here for you guys. If you need anything, any support, I'm here. And a lot of the time, a lot of for families, both the children and the parents, it's hard for them to go out even to stores and buy things. So I know a lot of food pantries and shelters who would offer food to be like, oh, you can come during these hours and tell the kids like, oh, these are free available foods that are safe to include like to make sure you're not being harmed anyway. So yeah.
What do you mean? Like bringing certain food to food pantries that kids might enjoy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry for everything that
No,
you've
yeah.
going through. I don't understand demonize because to me, um, if you want to, if we're gonna, I'll do this ridiculous thing for a minute where I pretend to take Trump at his word, pretend that it's not obvious exactly what he's doing. If he talks about wanting to discourage rape, I have a few ideas, maybe funding to test rape kits.
Hmm.
Um, maybe more resources for women to be able to come forward, shelters. Perhaps in his case, not raping would also be
Yeah.
a great method of stopping rapists. But if we're, again, trying to uh, discourage the import of drugs, well, I would imagine a better inspection of shipping containers could be quite effective. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, for the most part, this isn't a problem with illegal immigrants. This is
Mhm.
a problem that could cross borders, but a lot of times is homegrown. And I I just feel as though there's this disingenuousness to saying, well, okay, there's this crime committed by an illegal immigrant. It's so horrible. We have to do something about it. But then pardoning people who commit similar crimes.
Mhm.
Like, I guess maybe I won't rant. Do you feel as though uh do you feel as though this movement is one that's actually trying to go out and prevent certain crimes, or do you have a sense that they're after something different?
I definitely feel like it's not to prevent crimes or anything, especially if he's just targeting specifically people from Latino and Central America and Mexico. I feel like because a lot of people just assume it's that those people who are coming from those countries illegally, when there's also a lot of Europeans coming here illegally, but they don't really bat an eye to them because I a lot of people say it's not about race, but I heavily disagree because the US was born from race technically. So it's for me it's definitely more of a race thing than anything because I mean a lot of the time in different parts of the US you don't see many immigrants providing drugs or anything. It's mostly people of Trump's color or people that look similar to him
There are
who
very few people of Trump's color.
oh yeah. I mean similarly like people who are like from the European, like they're also bringing things in, but like it's not being batted an eye to because it's not like I guess it's just assumed they were here legally. They are here legally, so they know what they're doing. But it's not like I mean, I can't defend like the cartels in Mexico saying, "Oh, they're not doing that," because they are, but it's not like they're trying to engage with the people here a lot. They are more busy doing it in my parents' country more within their people. I know in my parents come from the same town, so it's very high drug things and very high populated. And a lot of the times the cartels in Mexico are engaging with the other cartels in El Salvador or Guatemala. So it's not like they're intentionally doing it here. It just somehow it's finding its way here. So I feel like it's definitely more than just a crime thing. I truly believe it's more of a race thing than anything.
Um, you coming up in Huntington, I would imagine it's probably not one of the worst places on Long Island to be. Um, but I know I know you have at many times had to have come into contact with people wearing those red hats, maybe even people in your school talking a certain way. Um, what's that feel like when you're there, but they don't necessarily know that you are the target?
I mean, sometimes, I mean, in my high school, I'm glad to say, like my graduating class, it was definitely a lot more diverse. But I definitely heard from like lower or higher classes where they would do that, and internally, I'll be like. I'd kind of like look at them and be like, okay, that's what you believe. And then there would always be someone else saying like, well, that's wrong. And like for me personally, I'd kind of be like, well, that's your opinion, but then I'd be correcting them and be like, well, you're kind of wrong because there are such limited ways to come here legally, and even then you have to pay like a lot of money just to be able to renew the documents again. So then I'd be like, I'd kind of like slowly push at them and be like, well, that's kind of like a little bit misinformation and a little bit like unnecessary to be like, oh, they're just coming here illegally and everything. So I'd kind of push them to the side and be like, hey, how about we not talk about this topic? Or if they're really insistent about talking about it, I most of the time was telling them like, okay, well, let's just break it down as a whole if you really want to talk about it. And I'd always use this method where I kind of learned it because I interned at an immigration office my sophomore, freshman, junior year. And so I'd kind of break it down to them and be like, this is like a cartoon map of how there's ways you can come in. And I'd be like, for example, let's follow this line. It says, oh, if you're here legally, you have a visa, right? So you want to come here. Okay, you're allowed to come in, but why are you coming in? Work, school, travel, or anything else? Oh, if you're not for one of those three, then you're not allowed to come in here. You're only allowed to be here for a certain amount of time and then you have to renew it again. And then I kind of follow that same map and be like, this is because I feel like a lot of people don't see it visually. So you need a visual representation, be like, hey, this is how the map works actually. So a lot of the times I kind of pull up a map on Google showing the immigration process. And a lot of the time, I guess my teachers didn't allow people to talk down on those type of people like that, especially because since my high school was very like Central American populated and Latino populated, so a lot of people and they genuinely like allowed I mean enjoyed our culture because we would have like pupusa sales, so people would be so excited to eat those, or culture days where people would bring their own food and people would be so excited. So it wasn't really found a lot in my high school, but when it was like a lot of people would back people up and be like, wait, no, there's like different processes and everything. And then as of right now, since I commute to school every day, just like when was it? Just Thursday, I saw someone with a MAGA beanie and everything. I guess I guess I was just coming down. He didn't really say anything. I definitely got a stare, but I kind of pushed it to the side. I'm like, you know what? It's something that's gonna happen. Like it's inevitable to escape, but I can have two reactions. I could either call them out and start like a whole problem, or I could move forward in my life and be like, okay, they gave me a bad eye. Well, it's not like they know my background, they know my story. So unless they really want to know the right how it affects everyone, then I will give them my time and attention. So
Interesting. You'd be willing to have that conversation.
mhm.
Um, Let me just ask you, what was it like interning at the immigration office?
It was definitely an experience. You would think that since it's an immigration process, it'd be quick, but since I was a receptionist, a lot of the times, like I learned how to read certain papers and look up certain because a lot of people when they start the cases, they have an A number, which is an alien number that every undocumented person is assigned. So from there, that's when they begin the processes. So I kind of learned how to search up certain A numbers in their cases and how their case is doing. But a lot of the time, it always came down to people calling every day and be like, why is there no status to my like case when it's been like 3 years? I remember this one particular time, there was this man who had a daughter my age at the time, around 16. He's like, I'm not trying to like be mad at you or anything. I'm definitely not trying to take this out, but it's been like 5 years since the last update to my case, and I have not gotten any case. And I looked more into his case, and he was coming here with his daughter who was under they were both under TPS because they came from El Salvador, and his daughter came here when she was little, so they were trying to like juvenile status, which is where the child was brought here as a young age, but they're studying in the US, they're working in the US, and the dad also came here, and their status for TPS or the girl's case was not updated in like 3 or 4 years. And I guess that moment, it was like, it kind of hit, like, I've always known the system was broken in a way, but that particular moment reminded me, like, no, the system's more than broken. It's like completely like demolished that people don't see it. And it's hard for the immigration attorneys to like handle with them because they every day it's a new case people are trying to open up and like with different administrations implementing different immigration policies, it's harder for certain people to get new adjustments or new updates to their cases. So a lot of the times the cases would be behind or certain people would get ahead and then certain and this is where like a lot of people don't understand either where it's like even the immigrants with them themselves would kind of create a tension, a hatred tension between them because there would be some immigrants who have been here for 20 years and they wouldn't get any status update while there are some who's been here for months and they're automatically getting their papers and everything, and it's that tension where it's like, well, why are they getting it when they just came here and I've been here for so long providing or giving taxes to like giving my doing taxes, giving up my time and space, doing everything I could, and I still have not gotten any response or any like judge court date to have a hearing or something. So it's like definitely for me it was a definitely interesting thing because you wouldn't even as a receptionist you would be like, well, I don't know the law for immigration, but what the moment I was in there, it's like you kind of pick up on like certain terms and certain like reasons why certain people cannot adjust their status so quickly or why certain immigration policies, like the moment a new immigration policy comes out, it's like, oh no, we're behind again by like 1 or 2 months. That can end up being 1 to 2 years. So
Sounds like a bit of a frustrating experience.
yeah.
Um, I guess the last thing I really want to ask about is uh, just for fairness. Um, I know there's a different kind of rhetoric amongst Republicans, especially with this administration, but is everything smooth sailing under Democratic presidents?
I definitely say no. I mean, I remember during Obama, like at a young age, it's like you shouldn't be knowing this like as a sixth grader, but I kind of knew because that's when like a lot of the time I knew I was very aware that Obama was supporting people, which is where my fear also still arises. So it was like Obama was good for creating the DACA, and he was trying to introduce, I forgot what the other one. It's similar to DACA, but it's where the children who have undocumented parents but are born here, those parents get automatic legal permanent residency, not necessarily citizenship, just legal authority to be here. I know that got struck down by the House, I mean, by Congress during that time. But like, I wouldn't say necessarily not even the Democrats are doing a good job. Obama, there was a lot of deportation, but those deportations were definitely more targeted to actual criminals. So that was like a plus that came out from that. But even then, during Biden, I know there was no new immigration added policies added, which was fine. But even then, there was no progress in the system itself, where it's like these immigrants are still stuck in the same status. And I wish Biden had put some type of like law or order that was like give these immigrants, I mean, like a lot of the time it's always the older immigrants who have been here where they're like, well, I want to have like the chance to be able to progress with my case, where I just there's always a part of me where I wish like the Democrats would be like, we should introduce this law, this bill where it's like these people who've been here for 15 to 20 years, more than between those time periods or more, to get an easier way or easier like first type like priority to getting these cases done because they've been here and they've contributed so long. But those have always been my hopes within the Democrats. It's like I wish they would speak up or do or implement something that would at least help older immigrants who have been here for a longer time to like move forward or and feel safe knowing that they won't necessarily be targeted.
So it's been a problem.
Yeah.
It's But what you feel the difference is that this administration is more driven by hate and more ready to do random damage than than in they're more willing to just go after anyone, or at least in my opinion, more willing to go after uh political enemies rather than actual criminals.
Yeah.
And even as the child of undocumented immigrants, if someone in this country is committing a crime, what do you feel should happen to them?
I mean, with the new, like, for example, for the Lake and Riley thing, I didn't think it was necessary to implement that new Lake and Riley Act. I feel like the man himself, like, I feel like he just should have been deported, honestly. I feel like he just should have, I know he was deported back, but I just feel like implementing that new law where it's now fearing everyone, it's very, I wouldn't say it's not, it's very, there's not like a huge population of immigrants who are committing crimes, like criminal crimes. There's very, I don't want to say there's a small either, but there's not like a lot of them who are intentionally trying to do harm to anyone. A lot of them are just like wake up, work, take care of kids, go back to work, sleep, and it's like the same thing over and over. So it's just like I feel like especially with the MS-13, I know MS-13 is big on Long Island, and I know that's what drove a lot of people for like Trump and everything because of Michaela and I forgot the other girl who were murdered. But I feel like even then it was like I feel like sure, but if we're really gonna target immigrants, let's first target those gangs, like for example MS-13, not like this immigrants who are here already just working at like a fast food restaurant, minding their business or something. So I feel like it shouldn't. I feel like I don't feel remorse for any of those criminal, like actual criminal immigrants because I believe they do deserve to be deported back because they are the reason why they're creating this huge stereotype among the immigration community. But then again, I feel like if they're deported back, I feel like the US should have an actual record of them being like, hey, be careful of this person coming back in because I know they can there are very easy ways for them to come back in. So for me, it's like focus on those specific criminals first and not implement new laws or legislation that will target everyone. Just target specific first and then like I feel like I just still don't believe you should like be like deporting immigrants who are just working every day and providing taxes. So it's like just focus on the criminals and the big gangs first to get because that's where the roots are. Like that's where the hate is started because they believe all immigrants are criminals when it's actually just gang members or people who are part of the cartel. Like you could just track, like kind of not track them down, but kind of be like kind of create like data points and be like, where are the most gang activity or most violence? And then within that violence, kind of be like, okay, who are committing the crimes though? Is it mostly illegal immigrants or is it more people who are born here? So
I think I think that's fair-minded, and I think it would shock a lot of people just how how much even people from other countries would support restrictions against people committing crimes.
mhm,
So, um, Andrea, thanks so much for coming on and talking
of
to me.
course.
Is there anything you feel like you want to say before you sign off?
I
Uh,
guess it would. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I might have the radio show, but I'm giving the platform to you.
Okay. I would just say, at the end of the day, we're all human. There's no one who's illegal here. I've always had a strong stance. Like growing up, my dad always told me, like, everyone's immigrants at the end of the day. No one's really not an immigrant unless you're Native American here. So I feel like at the end of the day, we're all human. No one's illegal on stolen land, which is something I definitely stand on. And I feel like at the end of the day, we're we should unite ourselves. We all have the same goal of okay, we want to lower crime. Let's do some research and see. like take an area sample, let's see who are committing the crimes, and let's all come to a consensus of how we can do that instead of targeting such a large group that has supported the whole economy, the community in such small ways. So that's definitely what I want to say.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Of course.